Morning arrives the way it always does. Light enters the room quietly, resting on familiar walls, touching objects that have not moved. Nothing is wrong, nothing is new, and yet there is a feeling that doesn't belong to the room itself. A small heaviness, almost polite, waiting to be noticed. You move through the usual motions without resistance, washing your face, standing still for a moment longer than necessary. The world outside continues normally, untouched by whatever is happening inside. Birds sound the same, streets do what they always do. From the outside, this morning is identical to countless others, but inside something feels slightly misaligned. Not panic, not sadness, just a sense that you are a step behind your own life, watching yourself participate in it. The calm on the surface feels earned, yet underneath it there is a quiet question forming, one without words. It's the kind of morning where you pause without knowing why, where the silence feels heavier than noise, where comfort and discomfort exist together in the same breath. You are present but not fully settled. There is no clear thought to blame, no memory demanding attention, only the awareness that this day feels different from the ones before it, as if something has shifted overnight, gently and without permission, leaving you standing in the same place, but not quite the same person anymore. The feeling doesn't ask to be solved or explained. It simply sits there, patient and quiet, asking only to be felt. And in that stillness, a soft understanding begins to form, fragile and unfinished, that something has changed, even if you cannot say what. That quiet feeling follows you as the morning continues. It doesn't interrupt anything, but it doesn't leave either. Somewhere between one small task and the next, a thought appears, gentle and unexpected. How did I get here so fast? It isn't asked with panic. There is no sudden rush of memories or sharp regret. It arrives calmly, almost like curiosity, as if the mind has finally slowed enough to notice itself. You don't search for answers, you simply notice the question sitting there. Life feels as though it has been moving in the background for a long time, days stacking quietly on top of each other, weeks passing without announcement. You remember being busy, tired, focused on getting through things, but the movement itself was subtle, nearly invisible while it happened. Standing here now, you sense the distance without measuring it. There is no clear beginning, no obvious turning point, only the awareness that something has carried you forward while your attention was elsewhere. The present moment feels steady, almost calm, yet behind it there is a vast, unexamined stretch of time that suddenly wants to be acknowledged, not judged, not revisited, just seen. The thought lingers without demanding anything. It doesn't accuse you of wasting time or missing chances. It simply rests there, open and unanswered, inviting you to sit beside it for a moment and feel what it means to arrive somewhere without remembering the journey.
For now curiosity replaces unease, and the day continues, slightly altered, carrying this quiet question forward without urgency or explanation yet today. The question stays with you, quietly opening a door you didn't plan to walk through. Without effort, your mind drifts backward, not to a specific day, but to a feeling, a time when hours felt wider and mornings did not rush you forward. Back then, waiting did not feel heavy. You could sit with nothing to do and feel complete. Afternoons stretched gently, filled with small hopes and unfinished thoughts. The future lived far away, like a distant place you assumed you would reach someday, without hurry. There was space then, space to imagine different versions of yourself without pressure to choose one. You believed time would remain generous, endlessly patient, always ready to be used later. Dreams were not urgent, they could wait. Nothing about those days was perfect, yet they moved slowly, allowing you to notice them while they passed. You remember walking without checking the hour, falling asleep without feeling behind, waking up without already feeling late. Now, from where you stand, that slowness feels unfamiliar, not lost exactly, just far away. Life eventually learned how to move faster, pulling you along without asking if you were ready. This remembering does not hurt. It arrives softly, like a quiet acknowledgement. You are not mourning who you were, only noticing how differently time once behaved around you. The feeling fades gently, leaving behind a calm awareness. Once, life moved at a pace that allowed you to breathe, and even without regret, you recognize the quiet distance between then and now, without needing to close it yet. There was an innocence in that assumption, a trust that nothing important would be taken away. You did not count years or measure progress. You simply lived inside moments, unaware they were shaping you, slowly and kindly, without asking anything in return. The memory of slowness fades, replaced by something more familiar. Somewhere along the way, life stopped feeling open and began feeling closed. Days were no longer something to explore, but something to move through carefully. Responsibilities arrived quietly, not all at once, but steadily. Small things that needed attention, people who depended on you, expectations that didn't ask how tired you were before showing up. You learned to keep going even when you didn't feel ready.
Life became practical, efficient, focused on what needed to be done next. There wasn't space to sit with feelings for long. You learned how to place them gently to the side and return to them later, though later rarely came. From the outside, this phase looks stable. Routine gives the appearance of control. But inside, the weight grows slowly, not dramatic enough to name, just heavy enough to feel every day. Time begins to feel different here, not because it loses meaning, but because your attention is full. When you are busy coping, hours compress naturally. Weeks pass quietly while you focus on surviving them. There is no failure in this, only adaptation. You did what you needed to do to stay upright, to remain functional, to keep things moving. Living became quieter, almost invisible, but it did not disappear. It simply stepped back, waiting patiently while you handled what was in front of you. This is the part of life few people talk about, the middle stretch, where nothing is falling apart, but nothing feels light either. And without realizing it, you became very good at getting through the day, even as something softer inside you learned how to stay silent, conserving energy, hoping for rest that would come later, someday. This quiet endurance was not weakness, but a skill learned over time, carried forward daily, unnoticed, steady, doing its work without applause or recognition, while you kept moving forward anyway, quietly. In the quiet of night, the day finally loosens its grip. The noise fades, the rolls fall away, and there is space again. Lying still, you notice thoughts that had no place during daylight. They arrive gently, almost apologetically, small questions, half-formed, not accusations, not demands, just wondering. You think about who you once imagined becoming, back when the future felt patient. You notice how different that image feels now. During the day, there is little room for this honesty. Distraction keeps everything moving. Tasks protect you from looking too closely. But night is less forgiving. It invites reflection without force, simply by being quiet. You don't feel like something went wrong. There is no sharp sense of failure, only the awareness of distance, a gap between expectation and reality that grew slowly, without announcing itself. These questions do not ask for answers, they only want to be acknowledged. You let them sit beside you, listening to the steady rhythm of your own breathing. In this darkness, you see yourself more clearly, not worse, just honestly. A person shaped by choices, circumstances, and endurance. Someone who adapted, who continued, who learned how to survive long stretches of uncertainty. This night holds this awareness without judgment. It doesn't push you to fix anything. It allows you to notice what is true, then rest with it. Eventually, the questions soften. Sleep approaches, carrying them gently into silence. And even without resolution, something settles. Awareness has arrived, not as a verdict, but as a quiet companion, staying with you as the night slowly moves on. It feels late, yet not hopeless, like a door noticed after passing it, still open enough to pause, breathe, and accept where you are standing right now, without rushing forward or turning back, in this moment, alone. Morning light returns after a night like that, and something feels slightly lighter. The questions are still there, but they no longer press so hard. Instead, a different understanding begins to form, quiet and unexpected. You notice how often you blamed yourself for not noticing time passing, as if awareness alone could have slowed it down. But standing here now, it becomes clearer that nothing was empty. The days were full, just not in ways that were easy to see. There were hours spent holding things together, moments of patience that went unrecorded, effort poured into simply staying steady when life asked for more than you felt ready to give. Time was not wasted, it was occupied. This realization does not arrive dramatically. It unfolds gently, like something you always knew but never allowed yourself to name. The weight you carried begins to shift, not because the past changes, but because the story around it softens. Self-blame loosens its grip. In its place, there is room to see yourself more clearly, not as someone who let life slip away, but as someone who endured it, quietly and consistently. You begin to sense that awareness comes when it is able, not when it is demanded. Perhaps this noticing could only happen now, after everything it took to reach this point. The heaviness does not vanish completely,
but it settles into something more bearable. Understanding replaces accusation. Compassion appears without being called. And for the first time, the question of where time went feels less sharp, answered not with explanations, but with recognition of all the unseen living that filled it. It becomes easier to breathe with this truth, knowing that nothing essential was missed, only lived quietly, slowly shaping you into someone capable of noticing, finally, without rushing or regret. This awareness rests gently, offering calm without demanding answers today. The understanding lingers, and with it comes a softer way of seeing yourself, not through achievements or markers, but through what stayed standing when things were heavy.
There is a version of you that lived quietly through years that did not ask for celebration, a version that woke up tired and continued anyway, that adjusted expectations, learned restraint, and carried on without witnesses. This strength did not announce itself. It did not look impressive from the outside. It showed up in small choices, in staying, in not giving up on days that offered very little in return. So much of life teaches us to measure growth through visible moments, promotions, milestones, clear before and after lines. But most real change happens where no one is looking, inside ordinary days that blur together. You adapted in ways you barely noticed. You learned what you could handle. You learned how to be gentle with disappointment, how to lower your voice to yourself, how to endure silence without breaking. This is not a story of victory. It is a story of survival, which is quieter and often misunderstood. There were no celebrations for this version of you, only continuation. Yet here you are, shaped by all of it, still capable of reflection, still able to notice, still breathing with awareness. You don't need to praise this resilience loudly. It doesn't require proof. It simply deserves to be seen, maybe for the first time, as something real and human and enough, without needing to turn it into inspiration or pride, just recognition, resting calmly inside you, a quiet nod to the part of you that kept going, not for applause, not for meaning, but because continuing felt like the only honest thing possible then, during long seasons when stopping was never truly an option. Acceptance arrives quietly, without ceremony. It does not erase longing, but it changes its shape. The past still exists, but it no longer demands to be entered again. There are years you cannot step back into, moments sealed by time, choices already lived through. Once this felt sharp, like something unfinished pulling at you. Now it feels softer, like understanding replacing resistance. You stop asking how things could have gone differently, not because the answers have no answers, but because the answers no longer change anything. The effort of rewriting becomes heavier than the relief it promises. Letting go here is not dramatic, it is gentle, a loosening of the grip you didn't realize you were holding. The memories remain, but they sit more quietly, no longer arguing with the present. There is space in this acceptance, space to acknowledge what mattered without trying to recover it, space to allow the years to stay where they are, complete in their own way. The ache of irreversibility does not disappear. It becomes manageable, like a familiar weight you know how to carry. You breathe more freely when you stop pushing against what cannot move.
Peace does not mean forgetting. It means allowing the past to be what it is, without asking it to return or explain itself. In this release, something settles. The present moment feels less crowded. You stand here, not pulling backward or leaning ahead, but resting briefly where you are, allowing time to exist without negotiation, and finding that this quiet acceptance holds more relief than struggle ever did. It asks nothing of you, only patience, and offers a small, steady calm that stays, even when memories return softly in the background of ordinary days without resistance anymore. Being here now does not announce itself loudly. It arrives as a simple noticing, almost easy to miss, like realizing your feet are touching the ground. After so much movement, rushing feels unnecessary, not because life has slowed, but because you have. The present does not stretch longer than before. It simply feels clearer, less crowded by what is not here. You notice small things without effort, the sound of a room settling, the weight of your own breath. Moments pass, but they no longer feel like they are escaping you. Before, being present felt like another task, something to achieve. Now it feels more honest. You are not trying to hold time still. You are allowing it to move while you remain aware. There is no urgency to define this feeling. It doesn't promise transformation or clarity. It offers steadiness, a sense that this moment, as it is, does not need improvement. Rushing once felt protective. It kept questions quiet. Noticing does the opposite. It invites you to stay without demanding conclusions. You are not behind here. You are not early. You are simply here, watching life move at its natural pace. The past loosens its pull. The future softens its voice. What remains is this calm attention, grounded and unremarkable, yet deeply real. In this awareness, time feels less like something slipping away and more like something passing through. You do not chase it, you do not resist it, you let it be what it is, and find that being here now is not a goal, but a gentle state you return to quietly whenever you notice yourself breathing again, present, steady, and enough. It doesn't solve everything, but it gives you a place to stand. From here, nothing needs chasing, nothing needs correcting. You remain, noticing life continue moment by moment, without pressure, without escape, allowing each second to arrive and leave gently in quiet acceptance. A softer way to move forward does not begin with plans, it begins with permission.
After everything that has been noticed, there is less need to rush. Life still moves, responsibilities remain, but the pressure to catch up slowly loosens. You are no longer measuring yourself against an imagined timeline. Moving forward now feels quieter. It does not demand reinvention, it allows continuation. Days unfold without the same urgency to prove something was missed. There is relief in this gentleness. You stop asking whether you are late. You stop pushing yourself to arrive somewhere else. The present becomes enough to stand in. Nothing about this erases the past. The years still exist, complete and untouchable, but they no longer block the way ahead. They rest behind you, no longer asking to be justified. Permission replaces pressure. You allow yourself to move at the pace you are able to sustain, not slower, not faster, simply honestly. Life continues not as a race, but as a series of moments that do not require chasing. You meet them as they come, without urgency, without resistance. There is a quiet comfort in knowing it is not too late to notice. Presence does not depend on age or timing. It is available wherever you are willing to pause. So you move forward softly, carrying less weight, holding fewer arguments with time, letting days pass without demanding more from them than they can give. This ending is not dramatic, it is calm, a sense that you are allowed to be here, now, without apology. Life continues, and you continue with it, gently, aware, no longer rushing to catch what has already taught you how to stay. Present, steady, and forgiving, you let the future arrive in its own time, trusting that noticing is enough, and that this moment, quietly, is all you ever truly needed to keep going forward, breathing, calm, unafraid, unhurried, open, accepting, alive.